Okay, today we will learn how to use our Inspire to find things that we haven't had memorized values of. We're going to see angles in here that are not the 30, 45, 60, or the 0, 90, 180, 270 that we're used to working with. Those things we can easily get exact values, A, because we memorize them, or B, because the quadrantals come really nicely out of the unit circle. But suppose we want to work with other angles. And it's important to understand that what you see inside the argument of the trig function is an angle, and you'll notice there's something else going on in here. Instead of just degrees, we have degrees and minutes. Here we have degrees, minutes, and seconds. And minutes and seconds work the same way they do for hours. If you have 31 minutes, that's more than half an hour. You'd have to round that up to the next degree. So we'll start out with a sine of 253 degrees, 18 minutes. We're just going to use our calculator to get this value. We'll hit our trig button and we'll go to the sine function, and we want to put it in terms of degrees and minutes. So we'll grab a template. Right next to the 9 there's a template button, and if you go to the second row, second column, you'll see degrees, you'll see a circle and then a single apostrophe and a double apostrophe. The circle is our 253 degrees. We'll arrow to the next box and type in 18 minutes. We don't have any seconds here, so we can leave it blank. We'll hit the enter key and we get a number, a unitless number. It's just a function value. The sine of this angle is equal to negative 0.9578, and our instructions in this case say round off to 4 decimal digits. So that's pretty simple and straightforward. Let's do the tangent that's up next. Go to the trig button, find the tangent function. Again, we need to put it in terms of degrees, minutes, and seconds here, so we're going to grab that template, degrees, minutes, seconds. 194 degrees, 36 minutes in the next box, arrow to the last box, we'll put in 2 seconds, we'll hit the enter key, and we'll have our answer here. It's equal to 0.260. We're going to round off by bumping that 4 up to a 5 because it was followed by a 9. Remember, when you're rounding, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 stays the same, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 goes up. Okay, well, so far so good, but let's suppose that we are now faced with a cosecant. It doesn't appear for you at all on the 84. If I hit the trig button on the Inspire, they will appear for you, but when you see your calculators, you'll notice that all of these reciprocal functions are grayed out. So you can see them to refer to them, but you can't use them. That's where the magic hexagon is going to come into play. If we have to find cosecant, and we go to cosecant and we find that its reciprocal is sine, then what I can do is I can turn this into 1 over the sine of 85 degrees and 20 minutes. And once I do that, I'll grab my fraction template. We'll put a 1 on top. Down the bottom, we'll grab the sine function. By the way, instead, you could always type sin and a parentheses if you prefer. My template, put in 85 degrees, 20 minutes, and I will get the function value 1.0033. Write that down. Sometimes your answers will come out positive, sometimes they'll come out negative. That's to be expected. The last one here, secant of 22 degrees and 22 minutes. Well, again, I can hit my trig button, but your secant will be grayed out, which means you can't use it. So let's use its reciprocal instead. Secant is 1 over cosine, so I'll be writing secant as 1 over cosine of 22 degrees and 22 minutes. That's actually supposed to be just that's a typo there. That should be just a single apostrophe for minutes. Okay, so we'll grab our, escape out of that, grab our fraction template. I'll put a 1 on top. Down the bottom, we'll grab our cosine function. Grab our template to put in degrees and minutes. We'll type in the 22. We'll type in another 22, and we'll hit the enter key, and that'll give me a function value of 1.081, and it's a 3.5, so we're going to go up to 1.0814, and that will be my answer. So pretty straightforward. If you're given an angle, you can just pick up the trig buttons and type what you need. Remember that you won't be able to use any of your reciprocal functions on the calculator, so you'll do that by putting them under, using the reciprocal functions, putting a 1 and then that reciprocal function down the bottom. Okay, so now that's going one way. Let's look at what happens when we have to go the other way. Move this for a moment. And now, instead of me giving you the angle is the unknown quantity here. And I've given you this plain old number. I've given you the function value. So we're going to have to work backwards in order to do this. Well, if we were solving 3x equals 9 to get the variable by itself, we would be undoing multiplication with division. That would give us x equals 3. If I want to solve for this variable a, and remember a is an angle, then I want to undo what's happening to that a. Well, it's being signed, if you will. So we're going to have to undo that with a sine inverse. And if I undo, I'm going to do something to one side of the equation, I'm going to do it to the other side of the equation as well. And if you see it written like this, perhaps you'll be able to see what's happening. We took that original black, and now we're going to take the inverse of both sides of that equation. This sine inverse and this sine will cancel each other out. It's going to leave me with just angle A, and now this is a number I'll be able to get out of my calculator. It's actually an angle I'll be able to get out of my calculator. So if I'll pick up my calculator, I can go to a sine inverse function, type in 0.2323, watch how that happens. On the Inspire, we'll just do a trig button, inverse sine, type in the 0.2323, hit the enter key, and it's going to give me 13.4325 degrees. Well, that's nice, but that's like saying 1.564 hours. And we usually don't speak that way. We usually speak about hours and minutes. So we can use the calculator function to turn these hours with a decimal notation into hours, minutes, and seconds. And that'll be under your catalog, whether you're on the Inspire or on the 84. If you hit the catalog, and you find DMS. A couple of tips for the Inspire: make sure you're on the first tab here, so you're actually on the catalog. Everything goes in alphabetical order, so you can type a D and it'll get you to the D's faster. The first time you'll have to go find it in the list, but after you've used it multiple times, it'll be there as soon as you open up the catalog. So you highlight that degrees, minutes, seconds, you hit enter, and it says take my answer, turn it into degrees, minutes, seconds. So really we're going to hit enter twice. And now you'll see 13 degrees, 25 minutes, 57 seconds. If we had to round that off to degrees, we'd round it off to 13 degrees, 26 minutes. If we had to round it off to the nearest 10 minutes, we'd round it off to 13 degrees and 30 minutes. Okay, let's look at another example. Tangent of A is equal to 0.47. Well, when I need to find the angle, remember, I need to get that tangent away from that angle, and I do that with a tangent inverse. So I end up with the tangent inverse of 0.47. We'll go to our calculator, trig button, grab that tangent inverse function, type in the 0.47, and I can hit the enter, but remember I want it in degrees, minutes, seconds. So if I go to my catalog, degrees, minutes, seconds is already there. When I hit enter twice, it'll convert it for me. It's 25 degrees, 10 minutes in this case. Okay, so that's when you're working with your basic functions, but let's look at the next part. Close that for a moment. And the next part asks you for cosecant of A. Well, back to the magic hexagon. Cosecant and sine are reciprocal functions. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to rewrite this cosecant of A is equal to 1.65. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put both sides under 1, doing the same thing to both sides of an equation. And this now is the equivalent of sine of A. We have no reason to change this number. This number is going to stay exactly as is. It's 1 over 1.65. And now it's kind of like the problem we had here. I want to get that A as a variable out by itself, so I'll use my inverse sine function. Angle A will be equal to the inverse sine of this fraction, 1 over 1.65. And again, on the Inspire, you can type it the way you see it. We'll grab the, escape out of that. We grab the inverse sine, And in the parentheses, we'll put a fraction template, a 1 on top, a 1.65 down the bottom. Calculator will handle all the arithmetic for you. And remember to turn it into degrees, minutes, seconds. We'll need to go to catalog, grab our DMS, and hit enter again. And just watch your rounding instructions. I could be asking you to the nearest minute, to the nearest degree, or nearest 10 minutes. And remember that there are only 60 seconds in a minute. Only 60 minutes in a degree. So if you have 31 or more seconds, you're going to be rounding that next unit up. And the last one we'll do together is this cotangent of A. So if I write out cotangent of A is equal to 0.495, I'm going to do the same thing to both sides of the equation. And 1 over cotangent of A is the same as tangent of A because they are reciprocal functions. I have no reason to change this number. I'll leave it as 1 over 0.495, which means that it's time to pick up my calculator. If I need to find the angle, I'll be using the inverse tangent, and I'll be using that green number as the argument for the inverse tangent. And again, I will pick up my calculator, grab the inverse tangent key, type in this number, hit the enter key, and we'll get an answer. Tomorrow in class, you should have plenty of time to practice with the Inspire, use it. If you're working with an 84, your catalog is going to be down the bottom. You have to hit the second key and then you'll hit catalog. And again, it's alphabetical, so you'll have to scroll down to the D's and use DMS. It works the same way.